Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? All right, listen. What we're going to be talking about right now is what happened here in my neck of the woods in the Tampa Bay area. And I'm not sure if you guys heard about this or not, but I was not surprised. I'll just say that. Okay. Um, Here, let me move around and jostle about. You want to go for a ride? Yay! Okay, so the other day, I heard about, and it wasn't on the news or anything like that, because I don't watch TV. I just heard through the grapevine about what had happened, and it was called Operation Dragon Eye. And this operation was conducted in June in the Tampa Bay area with Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and Pasco County with the sheriff's offices. It was a 2-week operation that was led by the U.S. Marshal Service. And they rescued 60 critically missing kids, and they were aged between 9 and 17 years old. And they arrested 8 subjects on charges including trafficking, child endangerment, and substance possession. So the reports from Operation Dragon Eye highlighted that some of the kids were expecting, okay, kids expecting kids, okay, including one girl that was carrying a child from her trafficker. And they had forced her to use substances during her pregnancy. And this case underscores the vulnerability of not just minors, but pregnant minors to trafficking and exploitation, which could fuel fears, okay, on levels that we never thought that we could ever see. I'll just say that. And the nonprofit, it's called Redefining Refuge, noted that one such baby was born addiction-free due to the rescue, which thank God for that. And it suggested that these traffickers may exploit pregnant victims to produce infants for illicit purposes. Now, here's a video real quick of the conference, not really a conference, like what the U.S. Marshal Service and stuff like that had to say.
We're excited to announce the successful completion of the largest child rescue operation, not just in Florida's history, but in United States history. In a 2-week period, this team, a collective work of many agencies and law enforcement personnel, rescued 60 kids, kids that were in critical danger, many the victims of trafficking, many missing kids. We got a lot of people up here, and that's because it took a lot of people to get this done. What makes Florida the rule of law state is we're great at working together in collaboration across agency lines.
So with that being said, I'm going to tell you what happened to my daughter-in-law, because right after when this happened, I was with, I was watching my granddaughter, because my daughter-in-law had doctor's appointments and stuff like that, because as you know, she's expecting, she's 8 months along. And she came home, she's like, "Oh, Mom, I got to tell you." And I said, "Okay, so tell me." So she had gone out, and she had my granddaughter with her, and I guess I don't know if she stopped at home to pick up my son, which is her husband, and then they went back out, or what the case was. But she had noticed that when she pulled into a parking lot, because she got out of the SUV, She went to the back of the SUV. She got out the stroller, and she went to the back because their SUV has what do you call it? 3-row seating. Okay. And she went to go get the baby Evie out of the back, out of the car seat, and put her in the stroller. And she noticed that this truck, van, okay, I'm not sure if she said truck or van, and this man was like watching her. And she's like, what the heck? And so then my son gets out of the passenger side of their SUV. And as soon as this guy sees my son get out of their truck, he takes off. Now, meanwhile, my daughter-in-law, she's all of 4'11", 8 months pregnant, and she has a 1-year-old with her. So when she was telling me this, and I said, well, you heard about Operation Dragon Eye? And she goes, oh yeah. And she said, and I looked this up, and she said, and allegedly there is a, do I want to use the term black market, okay, for babies that are born without knowledge. Now, because she's pregnant, it's not like, there's no like birth certificate, social security number, that type of thing for the unborn child yet. So I said, oh dear God, so there is, okay, documented evidence of this sort of thing for babies in U.S. history. If you go back, okay, and do your research, which I implore you to do, for example, back in the 1920s to the 1950s, okay, and I know you're probably saying, well, that's a long time ago. Just hang on. There's a woman by the name of Georgia Tann, Tann. She ran a notorious adoption scam through the Tennessee Children's Home Society, where they would kidnap and they would sell approximately 5,000 children to wealthy families across the United States and abroad. She exploited vulnerable mothers, often telling them that their babies had died, or they would coerce them into signing away parental rights while under sedation. And this scheme thrived due to lax regulation and high demand for adoptable infants, particularly white babies during a period of declining birth rates. But she always wanted blonde hair, blue-eyed children. And I read up a lot of books about this woman and what she did. And she always wanted to only deal with the elites. And one of the elites that she dealt with was Joan Crawford. Okay, the actress, okay, Mommy Dearest, okay. So internationally, black markets for babies have been documented in places like Kenya, where a 2020 BBC Africa Eye investigation uncovered a ring operating in Nairobi. Clinics and even government hospitals, they facilitated the sale of these children that were often born to impoverished or abandoned mothers for as little as 315 pounds. Okay. Some of these moms, they were induced into labor without consent to meet buyer demand. And the kids were stolen from the vulnerable mothers as well. Now, while this is specific to Kenya, it illustrates how such markets exploit systemic vulnerabilities like poverty and lack of oversight. Now, while large-scale operations like Georgia Tann are less common today due to stricter regulations, small-scale illegal adoptions and trafficking still persists. The demand for adoptable infants, particularly healthy newborns, remains high, driven by infertility, long adoption wait lists, and cultural preferences. Now, these illicit networks may target vulnerable populations such as undocumented okay, low-income moms, those who are in crises, to obtain infants for illegal adoptions or exploitation. So, recent cases suggest black markets for babies still do exist, though they are less overt in this era that we are in right now. For instance, private adoptions can be exploited when brokers or facilitators change or charge exorbitant fees, like tens of thousands of dollars, to connect birth mothers with adoptive parents, sometimes bypassing legal safeguards. These transactions can skirt the line of legality, especially if coercion or deception is involved. The trafficking networks sometimes does involve infants, though this is rare compared to trafficking of older children or adults, and infants may be sold for illegal adoptions, forced labor, or in extreme cases, exploitation in other forms. The U.S. Department of State's 2024 Trafficking in Persons report notes that kids, including infants, are trafficked for various purposes, but the specific data on infant trafficking is limited due to underreporting and the clandestine nature of these crimes. Babies that are born without knowledge, okay, could include those born outside of hospitals, like home births that are not reported to authorities, or mothers that are in precarious situations, like they're homeless, they're undocumented, or they're trafficked. And these infants are harder to track, making them vulnerable to exploitation. So I wanted to bring this to your attention, not just because it happened in my area, but because this is an ongoing issue and that we're going to continue to see. And yes, okay, we have alligator Alcatraz and yada, 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 but the victims of these crimes are scarred for life. Okay, they're scarred for life. And, you know, if you have your daughter, your granddaughter, your niece, whatever the case may be, who is an expectant mother, please tell her to be aware of her surroundings, know what's going on around her at all times. You don't want her to experience what my daughter-in-law experienced, ever. Okay? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless and God bless. Ciao.